Yo, what up, everyone? It's your boy Debo with Debo's Picks. This is going to be yet another Express video. I'm going to go over my MLB picks from yesterday. Unfortunately, I'm going to go over my NFL picks. I'm also going to give out my MLB picks for today's games. But before I do that, let's dive right into the MLB picks from yesterday. Now, you see down below, I got my 5-player flex. I'm going to use this 5-player flex to go over the other plays I gave out so we can get through this torture real quick. Starting off with Mlb Perez, we had him going over 34.5 fantasy points. This dude usually handles the Angels. Not so much yesterday. Gave up 3 runs, 5 strikeouts, went to 6 innings, got the quality start, but it wasn't enough for us to get the over. And then we're going to jump down to Justin Verlander going over his fantasy score of 40.5. Now, if you recall, a month ago, we had Verlander against the Orioles, and he was dominating. We had him going over his fantasy score. And what happens? Through 3 innings, 6 strikeouts, he ends up getting hurt and pulled from the game. And we got hosed. I know Levi, you remember that, brother? That really sucked. I thought this is our payback. Not so much. He ended up giving up 2 runs, only struck out 4, went to 6 innings, but it clearly wasn't enough. We needed his good stuff. He didn't have it. So that was an L. And then public enemy number 1, George Kirby. You would have sworn he didn't play yesterday, but he did. He didn't go 2 innings. I don't believe he finished 2 innings of work. Had 1 strikeout. I tuned into the first inning, and he already would have a high pitch count. That's usually a bad sign. And for pitchers, because sometimes there's certain pitches that just can't get out of it. Usually pitchers like DeGrom or Scherzer, they're going to get out of it and adjust. Then there's pitchers that just aren't there yet. George Kirby is one of those pitchers, but he is a pretty young, damn good pitcher. But he just didn't have it yesterday. Even if his strikeout prop was set at 1.5 to hit the over, he still wouldn't have got that because he only finished 1 strikeout. So he pretty much ruined damn near every play I gave out. And then I had Brandon Woodruff going over his strikeout prop of 7.5, and Justin Verlander going over his fantasy score 40.5. Obviously, Verlander didn't make the cut, so that didn't matter. Then I had that 3-player deal consisting of Brandon Woodruff, George Kirby, and Justin Verlander. Obviously, no dice. The only play, if you guys took these 2 players, which I personally didn't think highly of Hunter Green. He was my least confident pick out of the bunch. I did feel good about it, just not great. But he ended up doing his thing. He went over his 7 strikeout prop, and so did Brandon Woodruff going over his 7.5 strikeout prop. So those are the only 2 players that hit. Again, don't even want to talk about it anymore. I want to move on. And with that said, let's get into it with today's MLB picks. Starting off with Chris Bassett. I got him going over his strikeout prop of 5, and I'm linking him up with Carlos Rodon going over his strikeout prop of 7.5. Then I got Garrett Cole going over his strikeout prop of 7.5. And then Chris Bassett going over his strikeout prop of 5. And then I got my 3-player deal consisting of all 3 of these horses. Garrett Cole over his strikeout prop, Chris Bassett over his strikeout prop, and Carlos Rodon over his strikeout prop. And lastly, I got a 5-player deal consisting of Josiah Gray going over 5.5 strikeouts, Aaron Nola going over 7.5 strikeouts, Garrett Cole going over 7.5 strikeouts, Chris Bassett going over 5 strikeouts, and Carlos Rodon going over 7.5 strikeouts. All 5 of these guys have great potential to go over these strikeout props because they're all decent or very good or the best strikeout pitchers in the league right now. So those are my picks for the MLB today, guys. Now let's move on to the NFL. Starting off with my picks from yesterday. Now, I didn't give out any bets. If you recall, I did give out 5 players that I was eyeing. One of them being Nick Chubb going over his fantasy score of 15. The other being Kareem Hunt going over his fantasy score of 10. Deontay Johnson going over of his total receptions of 5.5. Then I had Cooper Kupp going over his receptions of 4. And lastly, Freiermuth going over his receptions of 4. So as you can recall, out of all those 5 players, only 3 of them hit. So if you did a 5-player flex where all 5 of those guys, only 3 hit. Not sure how much money you got back. It depends on how much you put in. But if you recall my comments from yesterday's video, I also mentioned my 2 favorite plays being Nick Chubb over his fantasy score and Deontay Johnson over his total receptions of 5.5. And that was my play, as you see down below, that I ended up doing. Hopefully you guys did it as well. If you did, then you got extra bread in your pocket. So all in all, it wasn't the worst day if you played the NFL picks that I gave out. If you didn't, then it was atrocious, and we just want to move on. So listen, guys, those are my plays for today regarding MLB. I will be going over my NFL picks tomorrow night. Just got to wait for the injury report. I don't like to give it out too early. A lot of these guys are quick to pull the trigger and pull the videos out in the middle of the week. I want to wait for the injury report on Fridays. You know how the NFL be. Freak accidents happen. But with that said, best of luck. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.